Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Limits Movie Podcast. Today, I'm joined by my good pal Jack here.
What's up?
We're going to be talking about Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh, yeah.
So, you have kind of a history maybe with Monty Python, I think.
Yeah.
So you're like a fan of the whole...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my dad showed me Monty Python and the Holy Grail a long time ago. We started going through all of his old favorite movies and stuff. So, the old comedies kind of things.
Yeah.
And Monty Python was one that really stuck with me. I really loved their just really goofy humor.
Yeah.
And just straight up the weirdest kind of movies. It's humor that really resonated with me. And so I got into the other stuff like Monty Python's Flying Circus.
It was a show in the 60s first?
Yes.
And then they made movies like Holy Grail. I know there's one called Life of Brian.
Yeah.
Meaning of Life. I haven't. This is the only one I've seen, but
yeah. So it was a comedy group that they ended up getting paid to make a show, and it ended up being called the Flying Circus, and they decided that the name would be Monty Python for no particular reason. They just thought it was kind of a funny name and kind of gave that kind of drunken vibe that they were going for. And so they had the Flying Circus, and then they decided they would make some movies too. And so they had a pretty small budget, but they decided to make Monty Python and the Holy Grail after the Flying Circus. So that was...
And I'm pretty sure... I don't want to talk about the ending yet, but I'm pretty sure the reason that the movie has the ending it does is because of its budget. They ran out of budget. Because we'll get to it, but this movie has a very interesting ending.
Oh yeah.
So I remember I only watched the full movie a year or two ago. I watched it again last night, but... it's actually one of my dad's favorite movies as well, so that's how I was introduced to it. Years beforehand, I saw a few clips on YouTube of it, what was it? It was obviously the fight scene with the guy who gets his arms cut off.
Oh, the Black Knight, yeah.
I think it was also the rabbit and the...
Oh, the Holy Hand Grenade, yes.
Bridge scene? Those are the three I saw clips of beforehand, years before.
Oh, yeah.
And then I watched the whole movie. It's a great movie. Saw it again. I think it's a great comedy. So...
Yes.
Weird thing, because usually at this part they talk about the story, but this movie doesn't have much of a story because of what it's going for.
Yeah, it just kind of goes along.
It's basically this guy's just trying to recruit an army. He's hey, I wanna find this Grail, because a giant godhead appears out of nowhere.
Right.
He's oh, find the Grail, buddy.
Exactly. It's going on a journey to find the knights that will accompany him on his round table that are worthy on his quest to seek the Holy Grail and just the adventures that go on.
It's basically a bunch of comedy skits because that's what Monty Python is basically. So, any that particularly stick out of you for comedy scenes? I know we just mentioned a few.
The Black Knight has always been one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's the one that instantly always goes in my head because there's so many funny lines in it. What are you going to do, bleed on me?
Just but a scratch. It's just a flesh wound.
No, it's not. You got your arm cut off.
Movie. That's one of the things I love most about the Monty Python movies is they're so quotable. They have so many just scenes that will stick with you that you always remember, and there's so many opportunities for you to quote them and bring them back and use some of their humor. So I love it.
Because I always forget about the let's see, what's the scene that I forgot about and then remembered last night? There's a guy who's trapped in a tower. And he sends an arrow.
Oh, yeah.
And he has this... It's actually really funny because this guy, they have him running a little bit far from the camera. It pans back to the guard. Over and over again. He's way back here. And then eventually, he's all the way over here. He goes on a straight GTA streak where he's just murdering everyone in the... It's a wedding that's going
Lancelot.
on.
Oh, yeah. And he's... walks right up to the person and, you're going to save me, and he's killing all the wedding guests and stuff.
They go on this whole thing with the guards beforehand, and they're okay, we're going to follow you. No, you're supposed to stay here and watch over this guy. You don't want him to leave.
Not taking his directions, yeah.
And then they all get killed because it's an interesting wedding. But
well, he thinks a damsel's in distress, and then he realizes it's just a dude that, wants to get out of the house.
And then the dad just kills him. Even though he doesn't actually die, but he attempts to kill him because he doesn't like this guy.
Yeah, it's great. I love that scene.
Any other? I remember is there's a guy. He goes into this little place with a bunch of girls. I don't know.
Oh, the castle where
Yeah.
he sees. Oh no, she put the holy Grail shaped
Uh-huh. I
beacon
remember that
out.
one.
Oh yeah, when they're trying to get him to stay.
Yeah.
That's a classic. Yeah, the holy hand grenade scene is amazing with the bunny, with the killer bunny. And
That's
stuff.
one that I always remember, yeah. Because
Not one, not three, not five. But
the bunny
three.
is so
1, 3.
unintimidating that it works so well as the joke of it.
I mean, you saw how it like ripped off the guy's arms and
Yeah,
stuff.
it jumps up, tears the people. Ugh.
Retreat, go back.
Slowly, the guy brings the grenade to. It's like they have a
Thou
slow
shalt
walk.
use thy holy hand grenade. I love that scene.
Yeah. This is a weird movie to do a podcast of now that I'm thinking about it, because basically what it is a bunch of mini skits like that. Acting wise, it's well acted for what it's going for because it's a comedy. They're doing a good job with the timing and everything, making everything funny, obviously. Otherwise, it wouldn't have still been memorable for so many people.
Right.
50 years later, almost. I think the movie came out in 75, so that's
pretty old, yeah.
It's pretty well directed for the budget they have. Obviously, some of the sets haven't held up perfectly, but it's not trying to be that kind of movie. They have a few moments that are in animation, which I always forget. Like after they kill the bunny, there's like a dragon thing with a bunch of eyes.
Oh yeah. They go through that whole scene of animation. That's something that you find in a lot of the flying circus skits too, and the TV show. The one where he's running, like the moon and the sun are jumping, and he wants to go quiet him, so he goes all down those stairs and.
Oh yeah, the guy going down the stairs
for a long time. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and bringing up the movie. I mean, it's just like a group of guys who've been doing comedy skits for a long time. They have a small budget. They only had about like $250,000 U.S. dollars, and it actually was funded by like Genesis and some other bands that like Pink Floyd also helped fund it, and they got a total of $250,000 to work with. And basically all their extras were just students and tourists in the area that they were just like, hey, do you want to appear in a movie? And then they just gave him some medieval stuff, and so that was like the ending scene where there's a big army, and stuff like that.
Well, so real quick, let's get to like the ending, I guess, of the movie, and then you can go on to your fun facts that you brought here. But he goes across like a bridge, and this is one of my favorites too, is the guy on the bridge, and he's like, what is your quest? What is your favorite color?
What is your favorite color? What is your name?
And the fact that someone gets the favorite color one wrong.
Red, no, blue, no, yellow.
And that it's also cool because this is one of the last scenes of the movie, and the way that the guy is defeated is based off of a stupid gag from the very beginning of the movie with the swallows. It's like African and European swallows.
Oh, yeah. It should have like what is the airspeed velocity of a
and then
swallow?
He says, what is the and then the king is like, oh, is it the African or the European swallow? I don't know.
They're having a big argument about if they can carry coconuts. Are you suggesting coconuts migrate? And they're saying, well, a swallow could have carried it.
We haven't even mentioned the stupid gag about the horses not being a horse. But it's a guy behind him with coconuts, and they're doing this goofy gallop everywhere.
So that's actually because they literally ran out of money. So they couldn't afford actual horses. So they went back. There's an old practice on a lot of radio shows where they would literally use coconuts. Half of coconuts to make horse sounds. And so they were like, hey, what if we just use coconuts to act like we have horses?
And that goes through the whole movie every time.
So it was actually not on purpose where they were trying to do that until, they ran out of money and they were like, okay, well, we can do this. And, that would be kind of funny,
It fits the movie really well.
It fits it perfectly. It's one of the most memorable things about the movie.
Speaking of things that fit the movie perfectly well, in any other movie, the ending of this movie would suck. It's only this one that it would work.
It's perfect. I mean, it's just another, mayhem,
Because early on, there's a scene of a fake historian, he's going on some ramble, and then just gets slashed. And apparently that ends up leading to police officers in this, let me remind you, this fantasy movie who end up just arresting the king and everyone.
That's funny because it's the historian that comes in. So the story behind that is the directors, the group, they wanted to do the movie where it's in medieval times and modern times. Mm-hmm. So like medieval England, modern England, and so they bring in the skits from the historian and the police and stuff to keep jumping back and forth. Originally, the movie was supposed to end with the Knights of the Round Table coming upon a like a gift shop that has like a Holy Grail counter in some like gift shop, like a little store that just happens to have it. And so instead of doing the whole movie, they just had some like cameos and stuff from the modern to try to break the fourth wall a little bit, like switch it up a little bit, but also combine the modern and medieval aspects of it. They just took a bit more of a medieval approach, but because technically it's taken place, like only like 1000 AD, something like that.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that because the main movie, if you watch it without that knowledge, it's barely anything but a medieval comedy with the occasional things like the police car. They're just there because this is the only movie that would work in.
Yeah, so it gives the vibe of like just a whole complete like cosplay, but like cosplay that goes extremely, where they're killing people and going around, and it just makes them kind of look even stupider than they already are, and that's something that I think brings a lot of comedic joy into it as well.
So if you got any more fun facts here, I think it's time for that because I don't have much else to say personally, but
yeah, let's see. So actually, all the Monty Python guys, they had a whole bunch of like series of castles that they were traveling to, like Camelot and the French people and whatnot like that. But then they ended up getting banned by the national like security of, like national monuments and landmarks and stuff like that. So they got banned from that because they apparently were going to cause like too much disrespect to like all the atrocities that had happened at those castles. Like executions and whatnot. And so Camelot, like the one castle, the castle that they're going to, is a 12-foot model that they just take perspective shots. Yeah. And then they're only able to use one castle for all the other castles that were in the film, because they had gotten banned by like the UK's like national park. The security there. So they got banned from all of them. And then also, one of the ones that I found surprising is the French taunting scene. Like, I thought in your general direction, your mother was a hamster and your father smelled it. Yeah, all that. So that's actually like a real thing in medieval times. The French in medieval times, they had specific troops where the sole role was taunting the enemy before battles and stuff. And so that was actually ruled a taunting and stuff. That was absolutely like that. It was something that one of the guys, I think John Cleese, read in a history book. It might not be John Cleese.
That's actually really interesting. Yeah. That's not what I would have expected at all.
Yeah, and the scene where they were launching a bunch of like dead animals and
the cow. Oh yeah, there's also like they try to bring like a machine thing in. Yeah. And they were going to hide in it, but they end up taking it before they hide in it, so they just chuck it back at them.
Exactly, yeah. That's another real thing. They took it from the Romans. The Romans would typically, they would launch dead or rotting animals at their enemies, or into the castles to try to draw their enemies out. And then also they would drop, can I swear? For feces on... the enemies that are trying to get into the castle on the wall. And so those were two things that they had brought from like actual medieval times to incorporate in their thing. And it's weird because you wouldn't think that would be a thing, like an actual tactic. But yeah, it was actually used by the French and the Romans. And so they took that part of it. So that's a good
that's kind of interesting. Yeah. I did not know those at all.
Yeah, and then like I was saying, the extras, right? They were all like students, all tourists just around, and all they got was, Amir, do you want to appear in a movie? And the Monty Python people would hand them medieval, told them to like join in on the chaos, and they would pay about $2.50, like $2.50. Free transportation, food, and just a lot of fun a day, and they just kind of accepted, and and so they, so they had about like I think it was 170 kids and stuff like that who were just like, yeah, why not? That came and they just dressed up in the medieval, and just the ending scene was like all the kids and stuff like that, and then the rest of a lot of the actors, the other extras were just like parts of the crew, the cameramen or the microphone people, and then like most of the actors, I mean, they played like every single one of them played multiple parts. The least amount of parts one of the actors, like the main guys in Monty Python, played was 5. The most was 12. Like Michael Palin, he plays 12 different characters. Like Sir Galahad, a soldier arguing about the swallow in the opening scene, the repressed pheasant. A strange lady distributing swords in a pond is no basis for a system of government. Like that guy. A mud villager, one of the singing Camelot knights, one of the heads of like the 3-headed knight, king of the swamp castle, one of the wedding guests, Brother Maynard's assistant, the main knight who says "ni," taunting French knight, and the narrator. He played all those different parts.
That does make sense, because if they had a movie with that kind of budget, they need to somehow space it out somehow.
Yeah, and they all they're used to playing a lot of skits, and so that's what most of the skits are in like the Flying Circus and stuff. It's basically just them, playing the characters. So they're used to playing a lot of different characters. But some of them, they had a lot of characters each. And so it's really impressive because we see a lot of the same characters all around.
So, that's Monty Python, the Holy Grail. I think this is a great comedy. If I have one complaint, and I mentioned this as kind of a positive of the movie as well, but naturally because of the structure, it isn't a very satisfying story. It's kind of just a bunch of gags, and that does work for what the movie is going for. It's just the one thing that if I have to complain about something, that's what I'm going to complain about, because that's kind of the point here. But Monty Python, the Holy Grail, it's a fantastic comedy. I'm sure you probably would say to recommend like Life of Brian and stuff to that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I've never seen any of those. I've almost watched Life of Brian once, but it was on Netflix and I just ended up not having the time some night. But I'm sure that stuff is all good too. So I am going 8 out of 10 on Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh yeah, I like that.
If you want to give it a score 2 out of 10.
Oh, 10 out of 10 for me. It's consistently one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite of all time.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of expecting.
It's regardless of how you're feeling, it's just a goofy movie to, not have to, stress about or anything. It's just for any occasion you can just put it on and have fun with it.
Have you ever seen the movie The Princess Bride?
I have. That's another old one. That's a classic.
Because that's one that actually one of the reasons I watched this is because that's my favorite movie ever.
Yeah, that's such a good movie.
And I heard that this one was compared a lot to it. I mean, kind of. They're kind of like fantasy
it's
comedy.
Kind of like
they're going for a different thing,
right.
But
yeah, and then just kind of like the I would say just kind of like the camera angles and Wesley and just some of the like plot line and the journey aspect of it, is definitely familiar to me, and I love The Princess Bride as well.
So that's something that I guess since you've already seen it, but if anyone else wants to see that, that's kind of like this too. I think that one has a bit more of a story, and that's why I always preferred it a little bit to this one.
It's definitely a lot more serious. That's if you want a more serious.
Well, it's still definitely a comedy, but it has its moments.
Right.
But this isn't a podcast on that. So back to Monty Python, great comedy, absolutely recommend it. Thanks for being on today's episode.
Absolutely.
Next week we got a horror movie I'm doing, so a little bit of a change from this one. But thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.
Bye.